So when I arrived at Queens Metropolitan, the juniors, just over 60% of them were on track to graduate. So it was a big problem. And there was just a lot of instructional things that weren't in place. It's not because the teachers were bad, they just didn't have the right structures and systems and expectations in place. Focusing on the data is where you can actually see a school make a huge jump in terms of student success and student learning. And I knew that if we were gonna get them to be excellent, then we need to really closely analyze the data.
What we should do is start figuring out the answer that's most.
Our results have been really good. All of our scores have gone up since we've implemented data-driven instruction. So data-driven instruction, at least at Queens Metropolitan High School, is the way that we make sure that we don't wait till the end of the year to see how our kids are gonna perform, is that we monitor them throughout the year and use what we figure out to adjust our instruction along the way.
So data-driven instruction starts with creating your assessment, and when we first create our assessment, we want to make sure that we have 2 to 3 questions per standard, and decide which standards we want to test for that assessment.
Right. What's organic, what's inorganic.
Right.
I like that idea.
Creating the assessment takes probably up to an hour. For us to also figure out the standards and align that takes about another hour, and creating a key.
We make sure that all of our teachers who teach the same grade level and subject have the same assessment. So they don't have to teach the same way, but they have to assess their kids every quarter the same way.
Then you give the assessment to the students. Once you have the assessment completed, you have to run your data. Running the data doesn't take very long.
They scan in their data, and it produces all these reports for them. That was a big turning point for us, where they could just use that software, and then they just spent their time analyzing it, not spent their time fiddling with a spreadsheet.
One was 13.
So before the meeting, the pre-analysis work would be for you to go through your data and figure out which standards the students perform the lowest on.
Definitely did not do well on photosynthesis or respiration.
And then kind of figure out why you think that they performed low on those standards. So this way, when you come to the meeting, you're prepared to discuss new strategies.
What standards do you guys see can be taught in a different way?
See photosynthesis and respiration into.
Tabitha, our assistant principal, has been
Okay.
a key role in our data-driven instruction team. So every time during our meeting, she kind of allows the teachers to have their discussion. And when we get stuck, she'll ask us a question and kind of push us to think a little harder.
What sub-skill do students need to know to better understand photosynthesis?
Well, they have to make a connection between the diagram of it and the actual process itself.
Sometimes teachers, they think surface level around the data, and I want them to get underneath the iceberg. Right. Why did the student choose a certain answer? So that's not just about the kids didn't get it correctly, it's like what else were they choosing? So was it A, B, or C? If it's C, why were kids choosing that? Maybe because of vocabulary, it may be because of content, it may be because they're missing part of the content that they didn't get from the first time it was taught.
Connection with words.
Connection with content, vocabulary, words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm there to push them in their meetings, as well as make sure that we are changing the instruction. We're gonna try something new.
During the data meeting, we have a corrective instruction action plan that we fill out. We write down what misconceptions students are having and how we're going to correct it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for example, we might come up with a strategy that students are struggling with word association. They don't understand how 2 words might relate with one another.
They're not connecting that this picture is a mitochondria and that there's a process that happens.
We'll figure out a strategy on how we can address that. When we go back into the classroom, we address it, and when we come back, we basically discuss whether or not it was successful.
Okay, so what is this equation?
So it allows us to differentiate for our students. So one of the things that we do is if we notice that maybe there was a skill or a standard that a small group of students didn't know what to do, then they get personalized instruction and they get small group pullouts or after school tutoring. So it's not just this student struggles in math, it's this student struggles with these 3 standards in math, and it makes it more personalized. Students are practicing the skills that they need, not just practicing math in general.
One of the biggest things to build a trusting relationship with the teachers was to let them know that I was being as supportive as possible. So So I had to bridge the gap between, yes, I am your evaluator, I do rate you on your instruction, but ultimately I'm providing coaching, not evaluation around this process. But then where are they making the actual connection?
The idea that the teacher closes the door and has their own little world doesn't really exist here, but that culture needs to be in place, right? Because if teachers are planning and or coming to a meeting and they see that, wait a minute, I got 80% and so-and-so got 60%, you could see how that would be embarrassing. It's not a gotcha. It's not like, well, you did worse than you did. It's more of, okay, well, certain questions, different teachers will help their kids and perform better on different questions, and let's look at it that way, and that everyone has something to contribute.
It's right here.
That's the biggest resource, is just time. So there's the teacher time of making sure that they have time to be trained, they have time to actually analyze the data, and they need more time at the beginning. So in the implementation in the first year, they may actually need double the time that they need once they get going with the process. So overall, at the end of year 3, you can definitely see an improvement in classroom instruction, and that it's becoming second nature for teachers to differentiate and to know what their students know and don't know, and we don't have to push that as much anymore. The teachers are coming to me with that information, like after an observation.
So with Earth Science, we went from 58% proficient on the Earth Science regions to 80% proficient on the Earth Science regions. So, and it was amazing for everyone to see that. I don't think they believed it right away. They were like, what happened? Us rejoicing in that was like, we did the work. It wasn't for nothing. It was because we valued the data process, because we were strategic in planning for kids, that they were able to be successful. And we now can reap the benefits of that. That's amazing. Then I was like, okay guys, we're gonna up the goal of 90 next year. So I didn't stop at 80.
Is there a set number of reactants and a set number of products?